Good morning. For all of you that are interested in education today, do you know what the big headline is today from Apple? Oh, now they're in the arena of news. Now they are purporting to be a place for truth. Now they make a good computer, but they don't know squat about history. Critical race theory is the new front in a long-running fight over how to teach America's story to the next generation. I can tell you in a few words America's story. Sinful. Everything that has happened to us is due to sin in the hearts of Americans. They're going to turn this around to where they really justify tearing down our history, our memorials. The future is going to look upon America as a boiling pot of racial injustice. And most of the racial injustice is in the minds of those who walk in darkness. If you are scripturally based, you will not have a question as to how history should be taught. What we are having purported today in the classrooms of America is an abomination. But I'll teach the throes of developing empire, which is America. They don't teach that. They teach that America is the bad guy. Our own public schools are making us out to be the bad guy of the world. How can they justify that? Well, they believe it. You listen to the sinister minister enough, and you'll believe it too. Perhaps you do. When Roots, Alex Haley's book, came out, it was a gigantic hit, and it put America's history into a tailspin. It was a wonderfully depicted saga, but it was friction. I recall teaching school in Nevada and an at-risk school on Martin Luther King Day. I don't have a problem with Martin Luther King Day, but we have a lot of things we ought to worship. We don't even pay attention to, like our Creator. But anyway, I made the statement in a classroom of primarily black children, fifth grade class, because we were going to perform the Martin Luther King program. And I just made the statement that there were some families, when they were emancipated, when they were freed, that stayed on where they were. They remained right there on the plantation because they were treated right. They were happy. They shared in the plantation's crops. They didn't need to go out and try to start over. No, they weren't. That wasn't a majority, but there were some who did. In my family, we had people who had slaves, and the stories proved what I said. So, one of my students went home and told their daddy, who was decorated with tattoos of hate all over his arms and neck and wherever, that Mr. Austin said that the slaves were happy. They weren't mistreated. I didn't say that. That man comes up to the school raising holy hell. My principal had retired because of ill health, the one that I loved that was so supportive. And they had sent an experienced retired principal to run the school, and he and the assistant principal, who was a wimp, loved the moment to call Austin to the office and have this father berate me for being a racist. They ordered me to sit at a table. He was sitting here glaring at me, and they were sitting there with their notepad. Oh, they had me right up there, man. They were going to stick it to me. So, when they recited what was said, I said, I didn't say that. Yes, my daughter came and told me. I said, your daughter accused me and is not telling the truth, sir. Well, I said, let me ask you a question. Would you ask her to come in here and tell me what I said? Well, the principal said, oh, we can't bring the child in on this. I said, well, the child is already in on this. This man was told an untruth. I said, I asked you to go to and poll every student in my class that day. Let's just take the time to do it right. Don't have to bring them in and face me. Just ask them, what did Mr. Austin say about slavery? They did not hear me say that all the slaves were happy and were not mistreated. I didn't say that. So, he looked at me and he said, you are what is wrong with American education. And I said, really? I said, do you see any tattoos of hatred on my body? You, sir, is what is wrong with America's fathers. Well, he blinked and he swelled up, and I stood up. And I said, if any of this is on my record, you will be sued, and you, sir, need to tell your daughter to never tell tales again. And I walked out. I have no idea if they put that in my record. We had a field day about 10 days later, and he was one of the supervisors. He ducked me, and I just had a ball. Everything that he started to supervise, I would be standing in the crowd watching him. I never said a word to him, but I cooked his goose because I didn't roll over. America is rolling over Black Lives Matter and social injustice, and it's time for us to get real. The injustice all around us is only because of sin. The injustice is a byproduct of how we have lived and how we have worshipped pagan idols. Pagan idols instead of God. We are the most hypocritical people on earth. We pledge allegiance under God, and we are an abomination. And that's what I get from my box of chocolates today. You could sue me if you want to. Stand in line. But it's time somebody stood up and told the truth about what is going on as to history and how it should be taught in our schools. Apple has no right, nor do they have the ingredients that it takes to teach truth. Stay with your bytes and bits and programs, Apple. Leave education to those who know the truth. Amen.